Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to Cloud Test Lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
See, currently you are setting username and password, and it is not safe to send the data with a normal string. That's the reason normally SOAP will use the encoding option, the encoding technique. The encoding technique is nothing but it will use username and password with a colon symbol, and it will use base 64 encoding and decoding options. So that means whatever the password or username entered, strsteve : strpwd Steve, your SOAP will generate the base 64 format for this one, and it will send the request with the generated base 64 password or base 64 encoding object. On the server side, it will use base 64 decoding format, and it will read the username and password again in this format, and it will set those properties to your web service context. Let us trigger the request one more time. This time, set some proper values. We are able to retrieve the responses. Take a look at the request and response messages. See here on the top, you can see that header consists of accept, and there is an authorization header available. At the authorization header, you can see that the value, this is nothing but the base 64 encoding format value. You can take this one. See, currently you can just Google for base 64 decoder. Put the value, decode. You can see that strsteve : strpwd Steve. So normally your SOAP will use this particular format only to decode the username and password. Just give a second, please. Sorry. So normally on the server side, it uses the same base 64 decode format, and it will retrieve the username and password. So here you can see that web service username and password, strsteve and strpwd Steve. Employee service by username, context object, org.apache.cxf.jaxws context, web service context IMPL. So here you can see that our container CXF, Apache CXF, has created an implementation class for web service context, because web service context is an interface, and it has created an object and injected the resource into web service context. And based on the web service context, I'm able to retrieve the username and password. Come back to our code. So here I'm printing the object, and once after that I'm printing auth username and password. So I'm able to retrieve the username and password on the server side as well. So whatever the username and password from the client side that you have set, username and password, you are able to retrieve on the server side, and based on that you can just perform the authorization, and you can respond back to the client specifying that whether the credentials are valid or not. If the credentials are not valid, prepare a SOAP fault exception message and send it back to the client in the same way. That is how normally authorization will be handled on the SOAP server side. Did you guys download SoapUI tool? Okay. See, normally when you are discussing with, when you are working within the project, or when you are using the web services within the project between two different modules, authorization may not be used. But if you are discussing with or working between two different projects, at the time the other module, the service provider, they might ask you to provide the authorization headers to validate the credentials for client requests. So at the time, you are supposed to set the binding properties by using the same approach, and you are supposed to send the header information, and based on that only they are going to process your request. They'll be going to provide some username and password as well, but with each and every request, you need to send the username and password. Normally, the username and password, they'll be available in the database itself, and the client was supposed to retrieve the details from the database first and set those details. And finally, with each request, you are supposed to send the details to the server. SoapUI tool. SoapUI tool is used for web service testing. See, currently you are writing some Java code and you are testing on it on your own. Last time we have developed one service and we have written a small client code and we have verified whether it is working fine or not. But with each and every change on the server side, or if there are plenty of operations that are available, then it will be a pain for us to test it manually by writing the Java code. So that's the purpose. Normally we'll go for SoapUI tool or JMeter kind of tools, which will automatically generate the request messages, and you can just fill up the data at that layer, and it will hit the server. It will hit the server at the mentioned IP address or mentioned endpoint, and finally it will receive the data and display it to the user. So SoapUI is just like the JSP pages, which we are until now we are using and displaying the information to the client. So once you have downloaded the SoapUI, you can just execute the SoapUI by running the .bat file. it will open a GUI representation window. You can just close the startup page. See, this is based on applets. They just use swing buttons and all, and this was also running under the Java itself. Here you can create a new SoapUI project. This is also just like your Eclipse project. File, new SoapUI project. Here you can see that it is asking the project name. Use some project name, employee, service, client. And the next option, initial WSDL. SoapUI project, it will be based on the WSDL file with which you want to test the service. Currently, I want to test my employee service. So I already know the WSDL details. Specify the WSDL URL. The WSDL URL will be available within your endpoint address. Take this endpoint address. Put :WSDL. Create sample request for all operations. Check this one. It was already selected, so no need to change any of this option. Leave these things as it is. Click on OK. So your SoapUI tool will query the WSDL and it will retrieve all the operations within the WSDL. See, currently within your binding, you have 4 operations. Save employee, get employee list by salary, get user data by employee ID, get user data by user name. Error loading. What happened? Yeah. So now you can see that within the project, it has created the binding with all the 4 files, 4 operations, just like however it was available in the WSDL file. With binding, it will provide you all the 4 operations, and with each operation, it will provide you a sample request message. Just click on the request button. Here you can see that whatever the request that we are going to hit to the server side. See, normally, come back to our username message. See, until now, we are triggering this one only to our server side. We are sending some username and we are sending some password. Here you can see that this got generated with some defaults. Just fill the data and execute this one by using play button at the top. You can see that it was able to get the response and it has displayed that to you directly. It has processed and it was able to display the data response directly to you. So I'm changing Steve. Now you can see that I got the details corresponding to Steve. Let us change something else. You can see that the fault code invalid username and password. Not only for this one, for any kind of request. From salary 3,000, salary 5,000. You can see that from salary 3,000 to 5,000, I have 1, 2, 3 employees available, and I'm able to retrieve all the 3 employee details and display it to the user. This is the payload that got generated from the server side. Even for this one as well. Employee ID 100 Steve. Check the employee ID for Steve. Employee ID 100. Execute this one. You can see that I'm able to retrieve the details based on. Are we going to enter all the input parameters through the XML file? Yeah, exactly. See here, it will directly provide you the request message, the sample request message. You just need to fill up the data that you want to trigger. Previously, you were preparing this by using your Java code. So this time, you just need to send the details or the data only based on the XML file itself. Even for save employee. For save employee, I just need to add some additional information. Save employee, it will just take the information and it will save directly to the server. Designation, manager, first name, give some employee ID. Anyway, the employee ID will get generated automatically on the server side. Unmarshalling error occurred. Not a number SD. Salary. You can see that the employee ID got generated and returned back to the client. See, this is only for our purpose. I'm writing this one. Currently, you can just go and verify. $223. By using Hibernate, I'm asking the Hibernate generator to use incremental option. So the incremental option is verifying in the database and it is retrieving the highest employee ID from the database, and it will retrieve the next element and it uses that one to generate the ID automatically. So previously we have discussed about Hibernate generate strategies. I have changed the code to use the Hibernate generation as incremental strategy. If I run this one again, you can see that one more got created. 225. I guess this is an optional field. You can avoid this one. I'm not taking the employee ID, whatever that he has sent. I'm creating on my own because employee ID was supposed to be generated by the server side only and returned back to the client.
Chris?
Yep.
Yeah, this is Sharon.
Yep.
So when we are using web services, we don't have any the front end one, like kind of JSP.
See, that's based on our requirement. if you are talking between business module to module, and there is no need of going for a JSP page at that level.
Okay.
That means if you're going for an enterprise application, business-oriented applications, normally business-oriented applications won't contain any kind of front ends.
Okay.
What you'll do is you'll just query the server or the service provider, and based on the result retrieved back to the client, you'll be going to process further, and either you can complete the order or you can fail the order.
Let's say our example, like employee registration.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any the new employee wants to register his details?
Mm-hmm.
So, at the time, how can we enter the details, like through what, like JSP?
Yeah. See, it's mainly depend on our requirement. If you are expecting the user to enter all the details, then you can go for the normal JSP page and you can ask the user to enter all the details.
Oh, okay.
And once after that, you can retrieve those details at the servlet level and take those details. Now call the web service.
Okay.
You can call the web service at any layer.
Okay.
From the servlet level, pass on to the processor. I'm talking about the client side. Okay.
Okay.
Let us say you have designed employee service client. The employee service client will consist of the front end pages, the JSP pages. From the JSP page, you have submitted to some servlet. From servlet, you are talking to the processor, and from processor, you can contact the web service now.
Oh, okay.
So the processor on the client side, it will discuss with the web service and it will get the details. And once after that, it will respond back to the client based on the SOAP fault message or SOAP success message, which was retrieved from the service provider.
Oh.
Okay, but normally nobody will be interested to use the front end kind of web service.
Oh, okay.
Yes, normally enterprise applications will use web services.
Oh, okay.
Even for our orbis.com, when you enter the details, the source, destination, return date, and start date, the orbis.com, it will submit to, let us say, it has submitted the request to struts action class.
Yeah.
From struts action class, it will contact all the service providers, just like atran.com or delta.com. Finally, it will retrieve all the information and it will put the data in a map object. And the map object will be returned back to the client. Client nothing but the orbis.com front-end JSP pages, you can say. And the JSP page has the capability of iterating through the map, and it will display the data in a particular tabular format.
Okay.
That's how normally they'll use. But directly the JSP page, it won't interact with the web service.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it was supposed to contact the internal server itself first, nothing but either your servlet or your action class or your Spring modules.
Okay. So let's say if anyone, if we have like a web service experience, if anyone asks, are you generated client side or server side, means what is meant by, like, I mean, client side or server side?
Server side means when we are working on the employee service application or the yesterday's application, the entire thing we have worked on the server side.
Oh, that means whatever we generated.
Exactly. Whatever the web service we have written on our own, and we have generated the WSDL file, and we are providing the WSDL file to the clients. That is yesterday's class.
Oh, okay.
In today's class, we have taken only the WSDL file and we have created the client artifacts and we have called the employee service. So that means today we have worked only on the client side. And also the temperature WSDL file, which we have picked up from the seeker.com site. For that, we are exclusively the web service clients. The server was available on the temperature side, the DSO side, And we got only the WSDL file on our own, and we have generated all the Java artifacts, because without the Java artifacts, we can't contact the client, we can't contact the service provider for temperature.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason we took the WSDL file and we have generated all the artifacts, and we have written some client or main method which will initiate the request to the server.
So yesterday we generate our own WSDL file, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yesterday we have generated our own WSDL file, but here we are the ones who are supposed to test the code. That's the reason we have written the client code as well.
Okay, so where can are we going to register our WSDL file somewhere? Like if we today we took the temperature WSDL file from
exactly.
So if we want to, our WSDL file also we want to register somewhere, or
no, actually it's based on our requirement. If
okay, so if someone wants,
if we are writing only for our business to business communication, in the sense or you are writing for the external clients, then you are going to expose your service on a public domain and you are going to register your service. But currently there is no point of UDDI in the public domain at all. Previously we have Microsoft and IBM public domains. They have removed the UDDI registries, and now you are directly supposed to contact the service provider itself. You have such type of like seekther.com and all. You can just search for web services, public web services. You'll get plenty of web services that are available, but there won't be any confirmation whether the service is up and running all the time or not.
Oh, okay.
But normally when we are writing the web services in our project level, it will be used only between the module communications.
Oh, okay.
If your project responsibility is to write a web service and need to register or need to expose to the external domain, then you are going to register with a public DNS, and you are going to specify the DNS to the entire or the rest of the world.
Okay. So you said our own, like in between communication, in between our the different module communication, we are writing web services, right? For
exactly.
So before web services, what we are.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website H2KInfosys.com. On our website H2KInfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.